So picture this. You're in a Hong Kong shopping mall, and suddenly an 18-year-old gets surrounded by police and arrested, right there, just for writing graffiti on a bathroom stall.
Right.
But then, at that exact same moment, roughly 1,000 miles away in this super busy Thai airport, a 55-year-old UN refugee gets pulled out of line. And this is just hours before she's supposed to board a flight to safety in Canada.
Yeah, it's incredibly jarring when you put those two events side by side.
It really is. And today, we're looking at the invisible legal net that actually connects those two entirely different events. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
Because what we're tracking here is this fundamental redefinition of how jurisdiction and state security operate in real time. It's pulling together, local policing, international corporate finance, and even global immigration.
Exactly. Our mission today is to unpack this massive stack of recent reports. We really want to help you understand the sweeping global ripple effects of Hong Kong's expanding security laws.
Yeah, we've gathered briefings from human rights organizations, lots of data from financial think tanks, and recent Canadian news broadcasts to really get the full picture.
But before we get into all those details, I do want to make a quick note on our approach today.
Yeah.
We are dealing with some highly charged geopolitical reports covering actions by the Chinese, Hong Kong, and Canadian governments.
Right, and it's important to state that we are keeping things strictly neutral here.
We're 100%. We aren't endorsing any political viewpoints or taking sides at all. We are simply acting as your impartial guides to the data, the mechanisms, and the events that are detailed in these original source materials.
Exactly. Our goal is just to map out the architecture of these new laws. We want to explore not just what is happening on the ground, but the underlying mechanics of how these policies are actually enforced, both domestically and across international borders.
So, to understand that global impact, we really have to establish the ground reality first. We're starting at the epicenter, looking at the situation inside Hong Kong as of July 2026. And based on this briefing from the advocacy group Hong Kong Watch, the enforcement mechanisms have become incredibly granular. I mean, the briefing details a third round of police raids on independent bookstores in just 4 months.
A third round.
Yeah, which resulted in 5 arrests and the seizure of just boxes and boxes of books.
Well, and the documentation points to this micro-level application of the law that touches, honestly, every strata of society. For instance, the reports detail a 23-year-old waiter who was jailed just for promoting a pro-Taiwan party online.
Wow.
Yeah. And you also have the case of 2 men with autism who pleaded guilty to secession charges, and their convictions stemmed entirely from their membership in a banned social media group.
Just being in the group.
Just being in the group. And then, of course, there is the 18-year-old convicted of sedition for the anti-government graffiti in a mall toilet.
Okay. That bathroom arrest is the one I keep getting stuck on, to be honest. The reports mention the teenager was caught because the police had literally dedicated resources to stake out the toilet.
Yeah, they staked it out.
Which is wild. Like, if you think about resource allocation, how does a legal system justify dedicating actual police hours to watch a mall bathroom? What is the underlying logic that elevates a teenager with a marker to a level demanding that kind of state attention?
I know it sounds extreme, but this gets to the core of the evolution from the original 2020 National Security Law, or the NSL, to the recent Safeguarding National Security Ordinance, which is commonly referred to as Article 23.
Okay, right.
So the original 2020 law was imposed from the top down, and it was very broad. But this new 2026 ordinance was passed locally to fill what they perceived as loopholes. It specifically expands definitions around state secrets and foreign interference.
That's much tighter now.
Exactly. From the perspective of the authorities, the distinction between petty vandalism and a systemic threat just vanishes if the action carries an unauthorized political message. So staking out a bathroom is an exercise in absolute deterrence.
I see.
The mechanism isn't just about catching one teenager, right? It's about proving to the public that the state has zero blind spots.
It creates this atmosphere of total visibility.
Yeah.
Like a security microscope just zoomed all the way in.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And you see the spectrum of that visibility when you look at the macro level context outlined in the same Hong Kong Watch report. Because the same system that stakes out a teenager is simultaneously prosecuting major historical figures.
Right, like activist Joshua Wong, who is facing a second national security play.
Exactly. And Jimmy Lai, the billionaire media tycoon, he was sentenced in February 2026 to 20 years in prison.
20 years. And that was a development that prompted Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand, to actually issue a strong condemnation demanding his humanitarian release.
Yeah, it caused a major international reaction.
And the briefing also documents the recent death in exile in Taiwan of Lam Wing-Ki, the former bookseller who had previously been abducted by Chinese agents.
Right, which is just tragic.
It is. And the contrast is just staggering to me. The legal framework applies the exact same existential weight to a billionaire publisher and a 23-year-old waiter.
Well, the elasticity of the law is its defining feature. Once the apparatus is built to monitor and prosecute perceived threats at the highest echelons of media and the lowest levels of street vandalism, it naturally just expands into other domains.
It spills over.
Yeah. If civil liberties are the initial focus, the secondary focus inevitably becomes the economic engine of the city.
Okay, so let's talk about that economic engine. Because if a 23-year-old waiter is considered an unacceptable risk, how does that same state view a foreign bank holding terabytes of encrypted, unmonitored data?
That is the big question.
Right. And we have this March 2026 report from the Asia-Pacific Foundation of Canada that examines the economic reality of operating in this landscape, and it specifically focuses on the new implementation rules under Article 43 of the National Security Law.
Yeah, the Article 43 implementation rules fundamentally alter the operational reality for international businesses. These rules grant the police the authority to demand passwords, force decryption, and conduct warrantless access to corporate devices and physical premises.
Warrantless access to a bank.
Warrantless access.
And the detail in the Asia-Pacific Foundation report that really stands out to me is the complete lack of a defense mechanism for corporations. I mean, the rules explicitly state there are no justifiable grounds for refusal.
None at all.
A company cannot claim that a server contains proprietary corporate trade secrets or that the data is protected under client confidentiality agreements.
No, they can't. And the penalties for attempting to shield that data are severe and, crucially, they are personal.
Wait, personal?
Yeah. Failure to comply with a data demand is a criminal offense, and the liability falls on the individual employees. The punishment is a year in prison and a fine of 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, which translates to roughly 17,500 Canadian dollars.
Okay, I am struggling to understand the logistics of this from a corporate governance perspective, because let's look at the Canadian banking sector. The report notes there are 7 Canadian financial institutions operating or maintaining representative offices in Hong Kong. Under Canadian federal law, those banks have incredibly strict legal obligations to uphold bank secrecy and protect client privacy. So if I am like a mid-level manager at one of those branches in Hong Kong, and the police demand warrantless access to our servers, how does the bank reconcile this? Am I personally facing a Hong Kong prison sentence for obeying Canadian banking laws?
Well, the report highlights this exact jurisdictional friction. Those employees are caught in an untenable legal paradox. Complying with the local police demand violates Canadian privacy laws and breaches global corporate governance standards.
Right.
But refusing the demand triggers immediate criminal liability and imprisonment under Hong Kong law. The international business community historically relied on this concept of corporate neutrality.
Yeah, they're just doing business.
Exactly, operating under the assumption that commercial entities were insulated from domestic security politics. But that's gone.
Yeah, reading through these think tank assessments, it really seems like we are witnessing the end of corporate neutrality entirely, like a legal tug of war where the corporate employees are just the rope. In this new framework, there is no such thing as a non-political business entity.
No, there isn't. And that is the direct result of the Chinese Communist Party's doctrine of holistic national security.
Holistic national security.
Yeah. This doctrine redefines security far beyond traditional military defense or counterterrorism. It engulfs the economic, technological, and social spheres. So an auditor's due diligence report, a tech company's user data, or a bank's client list, those are all now legally classified as components of national security.
Wow.
When security is holistic, every single data point is a potential vulnerability that the state must have the authority to access.
Okay, so the security apparatus regulates the public spaces, and it mandates open access to international bank vaults. But what happens to the people who try to step outside of that physical jurisdiction entirely? Let's trace the international reach of these policies, because the reports actually document how these laws are actively following people across sovereign borders.
Yeah, human rights organizations classify this phenomenon as transnational repression.
Right.
And the legal foundation for this outward expansion was solidified on July 1st, 2026, with the enactment of China's Ethnic Unity and Progress Law. A coalition of 54 human rights and diaspora organizations led by Hong Kong Watch actually issued a stark warning about this specific legislation.
They condemned its sweeping extraterritorial reach.
Right, exactly. They argued the text of the law is deliberately designed to criminalize the activities of diaspora communities far, far beyond Chinese soil.
And we have a real-world example of how this extraterritorial reach functions mechanically, going back to our hook at the start. On July 10, 2026, the Bangkok Post documented the harrowing case of that 55-year-old woman, Zhang Xinyan.
Yes. Zhang is a Chinese national who fled to Thailand in 2014, escaping persecution for her participation in the banned Falun Gong movement.
Okay.
And the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the UNHCR, they officially recognized her refugee status in 2016. However, she is also listed among 19 overseas-based activists wanted by Hong Kong police for subversion under the national security law.
And there are bounties on them, right?
Yeah, with bounties on their heads reaching up to 1 million Hong Kong dollars.
Okay, so because her position in Thailand was recognized as highly vulnerable, the Canadian embassy actually stepped in to mobilize a resettlement for her.
Right.
The embassy completed her interviews, they conducted the medical exams, collected her biometrics, and booked her on a flight from Bangkok to Vancouver, scheduled for July 8.
She was mere hours away from escaping to a secure jurisdiction. Like, she had her ticket.
And she was intercepted. Thai authorities, acting under reported pressure from the Chinese Communist Party, arrested her at the final hour. They placed her in an immigration detention center, and she now faces forced repatriation to China.
It's terrifying.
It is, and I really need to break down the mechanics of this interception. If Thai police didn't have a Thai criminal warrant, how do they legally justify detaining a UN-recognized refugee on behalf of a foreign government without, blatantly violating their own sovereignty?
Well, the mechanism relies on weaponizing local administrative technicalities.
What do you mean?
Well, Hong Kong authorities don't send their own officers to Bangkok to make an arrest. I mean, that would be a severe violation of international law and Thai sovereignty. Instead, they apply geopolitical leverage to encourage local authorities to find a domestic legal pretext.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so in Zhang's case, the Thai police arrested her for a visa overstay.
A visa overstay. Wow. It's like a computer virus exploiting a backdoor in a system.
That's exactly what it is.
Hong Kong doesn't need to rewrite Thailand's legal code or pass some big international extradition treaty. They just exploit a minor administrative glitch, the visa overstay, to achieve a massive foreign policy objective.
And the human rights groups cited in the Bangkok Post emphasize how this tactic undermines the entire international protection framework. A United Nations refugee designation theoretically provides a shield against forced repatriation.
Right, theoretically.
But that shield evaporates the moment a host country decides that maintaining a smooth bilateral relationship with a powerful neighbor is more important than adhering to international refugee conventions.
So the domestic security law effectively outsources its policing to foreign immigration authorities.
Completely.
And, okay, well, let's follow the thread to the final destination then. The net tightens at home. It overrides corporate firewalls, and it exploits administrative backdoors in foreign airports. But let's say an individual avoids the visa trap in Thailand. They get on the plane, or maybe they are already legally navigating the immigration channels to reach Canada. The reporting shows that the destination itself is generating devastating hurdles.
Yes. The geopolitical flight we've been tracking crashes directly into a bureaucratic wall once they arrive.
Right.
Data broadcast by CTV and City TV News exposes a massive crisis within the Canadian immigration system, specifically regarding the pathways created for Hong Kong nationals.
Because the federal government previously established a specific permanent residence pathway, which is widely referred to as a lifeboat program for Hong Kongers seeking safety in Canada.
Yeah.
But that specific pathway is scheduled to close on August 31st, 2026.
Yeah, that's the deadline.
And the data reveals that out of 46,000 applications submitted, over 33,000 are currently trapped in a massive processing backlog.
The estimated processing timeline for these individuals has just broken down entirely. The Canadian government is now projecting it will take more than 10 years to process the applications currently in the system.
Wait, 10 years? I am trying to wrap my head around a 10-year wait for an explicitly expedited lifeboat program. Like, it's one thing to have a backlog, but a decade. Is this a deliberate political decision to slow down intake, or is it just a catastrophic failure of bureaucratic architecture?
It's really the latter. Analysis from immigration experts and advocates, including NDP Member of Parliament Jenny Kwan, points to a fatal structural flaw in how the government categorized these applications.
Okay, how so?
Well, the Canadian immigration system relies on rigid quotas. The Hong Kong lifeboat applications were routed into a processing bucket labeled humanitarian and compassionate and other.
I mean, on the surface, that sounds like the correct category for a lifeboat program.
The title fits, definitely, but the architecture of that category is incredibly rigid. It has a strict hard cap on how many applications can be processed annually. And crucially, the Hong Kong applicants are not the only ones assigned to that bucket.
Oh, who else is in there?
They were forced to compete for the same limited quota space alongside individuals fleeing the war in Ukraine and the crisis in Sudan. Oh, wow.
Yeah, the system took multiple historically massive global displacement crises and tried to squeeze them all through a single narrow bureaucratic bottleneck that was designed decades ago.
It's like running a marathon to escape a burning building, only to find the finish line keeps moving backward.
That's exactly what it feels like for them.
And the human impact of this bottleneck is just profound. I mean, City TV News profiled several individuals whose lives are entirely suspended by this delay. Consider Roger Young, who relocated to Vancouver in April 2023 and submitted his PR application in October 2024.
Right.
Because he is stuck in this decade-long backlog without permanent residence, he remains legally classified as an international student. He was actually forced to abandon a job promotion because the required continuing education courses would cost him 3 times as much in international tuition fees without his PR status.
Yeah, it completely stalls their lives. Another profile detailed the situation of Simon Ling and Agnes Yan. Simon was a fully qualified optometrist in Hong Kong before bringing his family to Canada.
But without permanent residency, upgrading his professional credentials to legally practice in Canada would cost him over 100,000 Canadian dollars.
100 grand just to upgrade.
Exactly. Consequently, an experienced medical professional is currently working as a retail optician. The family is paralyzed. I mean, they cannot risk investing $100,000 into education when their legal right to remain in the country is completely uncertain.
Yeah, they're basically being asked to gamble their life savings on a bureaucratic system that is telling them to wait a decade for an answer.
It's an impossible situation, and this systemic paralysis is driving urgent demands for structural reform. MP Jenny Kwan, alongside organizations like Hong Kong Watch, is pressing the federal government to immediately alter the immigration levels plan.
They want a separate quota, right?
Exactly. They are demanding the allocation of dedicated, specific quota space to clear the 33,000-person backlog before the pathway officially closes at the end of August. Their central argument is that promising an expedited lifeboat is a hollow gesture if the passengers are forced to tread water for 10 years upon arrival.
Yeah, treading water for 10 years is not a lifeboat. Taking a step back, though, to view the entire picture we've constructed from these reports, the continuity of these events is what really stands out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. We have traced the complete life cycle of a radically expanded concept of security today. The elasticity of this new legal framework allows it to seamlessly transition from, monitoring a teenager with a marker in a mall bathroom, to demanding decrypted data from international bank vaults,
Right.
to leveraging visa rules to orchestrate arrests at Thai airport gates, and finally to exacerbating a devastating 10-year bureaucratic bottleneck in Vancouver. Every single point on that timeline is connected by the same shifting legal definitions.
It is a profound demonstration of how domestic legal theories can actively reshape global realities. And it really leaves you with a chilling final thought to explore on your own after this deep dive concludes.
Definitely.
If the concept of national security can now be successfully interpreted to bypass corporate firewalls, and its jurisdiction is proving capable of stretching across sovereign borders by exploiting administrative loopholes in foreign airports, how long until other nations look at the sheer effectiveness of this exact same legal blueprint and adopt it to monitor and control their own diaspora communities around the world?
It's a very real possibility.
Something to really think about. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next deep dive.